Good to have you with us on this Thursday edition. Ed Schultz News and Commentary. RT News tonight, 8 o'clock. Lots to talk about in the political arena, no question about that. By the way, I'm holding up what was just handed to me before I came over here to the Cap Center. Just handed to me the Donald Trump health care plan. It's 2 pages. It's a half a page, then a full page, then actually a quarter of a page. I haven't read it, a full disclosure. But I did read number 7, and I will get to that a little bit later, which is more than interesting. We're joined today by Tad Devine, who's the president of Devine Mulvey Longabaugh, Media and Strategy. He, of course, is an advisor to Bernie Sanders. And I have to say, Tad, I don't know if anybody pats you on the back for what you do, but where your candidate has been and where he is right now, somebody's coaching him up. And I know Bernie's real, but you don't do this alone. Congratulations on what has been a phenomenal run so far. I mean, you guys have made this a very important race for America when it comes to addressing the issues. So I just want to tell you, I admire what you've done with the candidate.
Well, Ed, thank you. I have to tell you that I've done a lot of campaigns, and sometimes you have a lot to work with, and sometimes you don't. In this instance, we had so much to work with. You know, a candidate who's real, who's authentic, who's honest, who tells the truth as he sees it, and who has a lifelong commitment to standing up and fighting for people. And so, really, in many ways, it's been easy just to let people get to know him and what he stands for, and I think that's how we made the connection with so many people. Exposure's
an issue, no question about it. Has been from day one. When they get to know the burn, they feel the burn. Now, you got a couple of big states coming up next Tuesday. Super Tuesday is behind us now. You got Michigan, you got Mississippi. You trail in both of those states. How much can you make up, or can you win Michigan, which is a vital Rust Belt state? And it seems to me that everything that Bernie talks about, Michigan's right in the wheelhouse. What do you think? I think we can. You know, we are behind, and we have been behind in every single state so far in this process. Some places as much as 30, 40, or even 50 points behind when we started. In the states that we won last Tuesday, I mean, in Colorado, in Minnesota, in Oklahoma, and in Massachusetts, too. When we first polled those states back in December, we were more than 20 points behind in each one of those states, and yet we won 3 and almost won the 4th. So I think we can make up ground. I think we can close strong. Bernie's got a history of doing that. And, you know, even before this weekend in Kansas, in Nebraska, and Louisiana, and in Maine, we've got some great opportunities, I think, to put some W's on the board and to win delegates, and we're going to be fighting in all those states as well. You're going to win Maine? I think we are. I think we're going to win Maine. He went to Maine yesterday. We had, 1,750 people who came to his event and another 650 people outside. And it was really remarkable. And that's a caucus that, on average, you get about 25,000 people to come to. So, we had every time we've been to Maine, we've had huge crowds. We had a crowd of more than 10,000 people this summer in Maine. So if everybody who's come to Bernie events shows up on Sunday, we're going to win the caucuses. All right. Now, I maintain the position that winning Minnesota and Colorado is as good as winning all of those southern states, because the Democrats aren't going to win those southern states in the general anyway. Well, yeah, I mean, I want your thought. I mean, wasn't Minnesota and Colorado crucial to moving forward? They were, and I'll tell you the big takeaway. There's a lot of talk about, there's no turnout. In Colorado on Tuesday, 122,000 people came to the caucuses. The previous record was 120,000 in 2008 between Obama and Hillary Clinton. I mean, so you had a record turnout of the caucuses in Colorado? I'm not seeing that anywhere. I know. It's funny because I've been talking about it. I mentioned it last night on Hardball, and, I've talked to people about it, and it's not getting out there. What's happening in some places, now it's true, we did not compete on television, on the ground, and everything that we could possibly do in all those states. And part of the reason was we decided after, Nevada that, listen, if we're going to win this, it's going to be a long haul. We're going to have to be patient. We're going to have to pick our spots, and we're going to have to accumulate delegates and win big showdowns. That's the strategic course that we've taken. I think it's the right one. Okay. Tad, what's the reaction of the campaign when CNN is throwing out the narrative, well, some party people are suggesting that Bernie get out? Well, I'll tell you, Ed, the reaction, I think, from the candidate on down is that that's the last thing we're going to do. You got 35 states to go. I don't think Hillary would get out at 35. No, well, we know what she would do because we saw it in 2008. So, I think what Bernie wants to do, and I believe this is crucial, not just for him, really, because this campaign isn't so much about him. It's about the people that have joined this cause. We want to get millions of people involved in the process, and I would think the Democrats maybe would take a step back and realize that if Bernie Sanders can register potentially millions of young people to vote, bring
bring in independence to the democratic process, get people who've been left behind into the political process and register them to vote. That's a really important thing, not just for the candidate for president, but for every Democrat, every progressive up and down the ballot.
Do you think the African-American numbers that came out of South Carolina is a microcosm of your issue with that portion of the population nationwide?
No, I think what happened in South Carolina is someone who they knew well and have known for a long time, both Hillary Clinton and President Clinton before him, someone they felt very comfortable with, who had a governor who had been in their region of the country for many years, someone they've known Hillary Clinton for decades now. They were very comfortable supporting her. But I believe as we go through this process and African American voters see that Bernie Sanders is someone from the time he was a young man in college who stood up, was arrested in civil rights protests, protested the housing policies of his own university, has fought on these issues his whole career, and has the best program to move people forward. I think as that knowledge seeps in and they know more and more about him, I think we're going to win a lot more support next week.
Okay, so Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, Ohio. You feel good about all of those?
I do. I think we're going to win the whole West Coast. From Seattle down through San Diego. There's a lot of Bernie supporters out there. I feel really good about states all across. I feel good about New York. I think somebody who was born and bred in Brooklyn and who's been in upstate Vermont, with the people in upstate New York know him pretty well. I think we're going to make a real good run at winning the state of New York.
What happened in Massachusetts?
Well, I'll tell you, we had a phenomenal campaign in Massachusetts. People forget, in 2008, Barack Obama lost Massachusetts by 15.4% to Hillary Clinton. And by the way, Obama was endorsed by the governor, Deval Patrick. He was endorsed by Senator Kennedy, okay? He had a lot of support, and he lost by over 15 points to her. And we lost, by a very narrow margin. We didn't have that kind of depth of support. We didn't have a lot of the following that Obama had, because we had a phenomenal grassroots campaign in Massachusetts, and we almost pulled it off. And as I said, in our first poll, we were 23 points behind. So, we came up a little short, but I'm so proud of the effort of everybody in Massachusetts and what we did there.
Tad Devine, biggest concern you have right now for the campaign is?
Well, that people will think that the arithmetic of the nominating process is more important than the dynamic of the nominating process. They're going to think that because so many hundred superdelegates have endorsed Hillary Clinton, the race is over. It's not over. We've only just begun. And if we can prove that he's the strongest candidate, which I believe he is, against the Republicans, and that we can coalesce a majority of the pledged delegates, I believe Bernie's going to be the nominee.
And what about the latest story on the FBI and the Justice Department giving immunity to a Clinton aide in the email issue? What is that?
Ed, I think, again, as this story has for a long time for Hillary Clinton and her campaign, it's an issue that distracts the public from the real issues that we want at the center of the debate. I mean, Bernie's been very clear. There's an investigation going on. It's appropriate. Let the investigation go on. Let the chips fall where they may. He's not going to be distracted by any of these things. But listen, we need to know whoever our nominee is somebody who can take on Donald Trump. It is not just this investigation. The truth is, Donald Trump is talking about trade issues the way a Democrat should be talking about trade issues, okay? He's saying we need to do something about these trade agreements that have cost us millions of jobs. I don't see how Hillary Clinton can run against him in Detroit with her position on trade.
Tad Devine, always a pleasure. Good to visit. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ed.
You bet. Senior advisor to Bernie Sanders' campaign, president of Devine Mulvey Longabaugh Media Strategy. Tad Devine has been around a long time on the inner circle with Bernie Sanders. When we come back, Donald Trump commanded almost an hour from all the networks today after Mitt Romney ripped him a new one. We'll break that all down. And as I said at the top, here's the health care plan. This is as much detail as we're going to get out of Donald Trump when it comes to health care. Just under 2 pages. Stay with us. PillPack, Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bringing this production. We're right back. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegoted.com, or go to biogreenclean.com, www.biogreenclean, and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Well, Mitt Romney has jumped into the political fray, back into the arena, and he did it pretty interesting style, too. Mitt Romney today in his speech out in Salt Lake City came across as a very measured, a very classy, a very cool, calm, and collected, non-emotional, almost a voice of experience in the wind, telling the Republican Party, you better get your act together because this is really happening. It was almost like he was sounding the alarm. It was a scathing autopsy of Donald Trump and why he should not be the nominee and why he would be terrible for America. The 2012 nominee for the Republicans, who got 47% of the national vote, said this about Trump.
We Republicans choose Donald Trump as our nominee. The prospects for a safe and prosperous future are greatly diminished. Let me explain why I say that. First, on the economy. If Donald Trump's plans were ever implemented, the country would sink into prolonged recession. A few examples. His proposed 35% tariff-like penalties would instigate a trade war, and that would raise prices for consumers, kill our export jobs, and lead entrepreneurs and businesses of all stripes to flee America. His tax plan, in combination with his refusal to reform entitlements and to honestly address spending, would balloon the deficit and the national debt.
Well, he didn't stop there. He went on to say that dishonesty is the hallmark of Donald Trump. Said his temperament leads him to be unstable and should not be commander-in-chief, and pulled a line from Rubio and called him a con man. But he did it in the very tone of voice that you just heard. So I view this as a very strong wake-up call for the Republican Party. If you think Mitt Romney has any credibility or not remains to be seen. But there really has been no critique like this of Romney and no measured critique of Donald Trump by anyone else. So I think that Cruz and Rubio, while they keep throwing insults at Trump, I think, maybe Romney gave them a pathway on how you take this guy down in a long speech and detailed. I thought watching it, and I'm not the biggest Romney fan in the world, I thought it was effective. Whether it's going to have an impact or not remains to be seen. We'll have full coverage of this tonight on the news with Ed Schultz on RT America, on Dish, and on Direct, and on RT.com. Now, in recent days, I've been on healthcare because we don't get any detail out of Donald Trump. This was handed to me just before I came over to do this video cast. This production. Healthcare reform to make America great again. I have not read the whole thing. In fact, I've only read one section, and it's a little paragraph, number 7. I've always liked number 7. So I picked, I got to read something out of this before I do this. We're on a deadline. So I'll try number 7. Lo and behold, I got to read it to you. Number 7, remove barriers to enter into free markets for drug providers that offer safe, reliable, cheaper products. Congress will need the courage to step away from the special interests and do what is right for America. Though the pharmaceutical industry is in the private sector, drug companies provide a public service, allowing consumers to access imported, it says, allowing consumers to access imported, safe, and dependable drugs from overseas will bring more options to consumers. That is a liberal policy. That cuts to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Allowing consumers to access imported, safe, and dependable drugs from overseas will bring more options to consumers. This means that Donald Trump's health care plan is willing to take the pharmaceutical industry to task in Washington. That he is willing to take a liberal Democratic position, attack Wall Street. The pharmaceuticals are on Wall Street, folks. Okay? They're a big-time profit and loss, all right? And they can tell you that they're doing all this money on research and development. The fact of the matter is they are profit whores, okay? And you're the consumer. And so I don't know how the mainstream media is going to play this. I don't know how Cruz and Rubio are going to play this because they're really the only competition left for Trump right now. But this is a Democratic policy. Forcing Congress to have the courage to step away from the special interests, to do what's right for America. Though the pharmaceutical industry is in the private sector, drug companies provide a public service. You will not find one CEO of any pharmaceutical company that will tell you that our definition is public service. Their mission is money. Their mission is to bring the absolute best products they possibly can to the market and gouge the living shit out of the consumer and make a ton of money for the stockholders who are sitting there on Wall Street and the hedge funders that just can't get enough of this stuff. I don't know who wrote this. I don't know if Trump even believes this. But remove barriers to enter into markets for drug providers that offer safe, reliable, cheaper products. You know, Mr. Trump, why don't you just say it would be better if we went universal health care and I stand with Bernie Sanders? Because I'll guarantee you, the majority of Americans in this country want number 7. They do. And this is going to create a huge nightmare for the Republican Party. And what do you have here? You have a guy who's willing to self-fund his campaign, who can't be bought by the special interests. This is attractive to independents. It's attractive to blue-collar workers. It's attractive to small business owners, because business owners are going to sit there and say, damn, we could get cheaper drugs if we could just go to Winnipeg, Manitoba, cross the border. Gosh, we're going to be able to import pharmaceuticals that do the same thing that I'm paying for right now, and it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper. No wonder Trump is against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Of all the things that have come out so far with Trump, this is the most detailed. I haven't read 1 through 7, but I read number 7. There'll be a lot more on this coming up. PillPack. That's right. How good timing is that? PillPack, along with Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you Ed Schultz news and commentary. We're back tomorrow.